Talking to myself again, but it's the only...
Good evening and a happy new year, and welcome to NUFC Matters. It's ladies' night on a Monday night, and I'm joined by Samantha, Sav and Kendall. Good evening, girls.
Hiya.
Hi.
Hi.
Happy New Year as well. Good to see you, and good to see you've all survived the festivities. And happy new sponsor for January. A big thank you to the Old Coach House Distillery.co.uk. It's the world's first alcohol-free distillery. Visit their website, enter the code OCHD to claim their introductory 10% discount and get the most out of your mindful dry January. So quite a good one to have, I think, that, girls, for January and people who are doing dry January.
Absolutely.
Something a bit different, but big thank you to them. They've come on board to sponsor the StreamYard application this month, and going to have words with Liam Kennedy. Normally he breaks these stories on a Tuesday. I feel like I'm going to have to stick him outside the headmaster's office, but those of you who haven't seen it, Liam has broken a story within the last hour, and again, first, across the line with the big stories. And the headline says, revealed full details of the Newcastle United takeover letter sent by Qatar's BN Sports, urging the Premier League clubs to pressure decision makers to interrogate the deal. I will go through it because obviously there'll be a few of you haven't seen this. I know a few are already talking about it in the chat. But the BN Media Group Chief Executive Officer's letter, which was reported on in April 2020, it's now been seen in full by the Shields Gazette and Liam Kennedy, and it strongly suggests that the clubs fully interrogate the deal and ask the Premier League to do the same as a matter of urgency. While the club's going over details of the £300 million deal itself doesn't necessarily breach the Premier League owners and directors test rules, it does open up confidentiality issues. So any pressure applied to the top flight board by shareholders on this matter would be against test protocol. The Premier League board alone, without influence from its 20 shareholders, is tasked with making any decision on change of ownership. Despite months of test back and forth, no formal determination, of course, was made on the switch of ownership from Mike Ashley to the Public Investment Fund to Saudi Arabia, the Reuben Brothers and PCP Capital Partners. But it's not known how many clubs were in receipt of Al Ubadli's letter. But Newcastle United weren't in receipt of that letter. It's also understood a number of other so-called Big Six clubs didn't get the letter either. The Premier League in correspondence, seen by Liam at the Shields Gazette, have confirmed the existence of the letter and its nature. They have publicly denied any outside body had influence on the application of the owners and directors test in relation to Newcastle's takeover. In August, of course, Chief Executive Richard Masters said that the owners and directors test is delegated to and carried out entirely by the Premier League board. Other member clubs have no role whatsoever in the approval process. The letter, which Liam has printed in the Shields Gazette and you can see online at theshieldsgazette.com, forms part of evidence being used in the anti-competition legal action against the Premier League, which is ongoing at present. It's been presented as a collective lobbying wherein an organisation, in this case BN, lobbies more than 25% of a market, the Premier League clubs, to the detriment of the investment and growth of another, Newcastle United, with whom they have conflict of interest. The letter is signed off, of course, and it points the finger squarely at Saudi Arabia and allegations of the kingdom's ruling elites' reported support for piracy in the Middle East and North Africa region as reason for the deal to be given special treatment by the clubs. The letter itself, I will read that to you as well. It's not as long as what I've just read out there. But dear sir, I'm writing to you as the Chief Executive BN Media Group, one of the Premier League's largest worldwide broadcast partners and consequently one of the largest investors in English football. Over recent days, media are reporting on the potential acquisition of a Premier League club, Newcastle United Football Club, by a group backed by the Saudi Arabia government via its Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund. In light of the Saudi Arabian government's facilitation of the near 3-year theft of the Premier League's commercial rights and in turn your club's commercial revenues through its backing of the huge-scale BIQ pirate service, I would strongly suggest that you fully interrogate this deal and ask the Premier League to do the same as a matter of urgency. The industrial-scale theft of Premier League and its club's intellectual property by Saudi Arabia is sadly now notorious. The Saudi operation called BLQ has the largest and most sophisticated sports piracy service ever seen. To recap on the operation, originally exposed by the New York Times, and then it goes on to explain all about BLQ. But then getting back to the crux of his letter, he says, since the beginning, the Saudi Arabian government, the very acquirer of Newcastle United, has fully backed and facilitated the operation of the service. Its operation within Saudi Arabia has been indisputably and repeatedly recognised by the US government, the UK government and the European Commission and every major football rights holder, including FIFA and UEFA. Lots more, finger pointing. He does finish off at the end with, it is for this reason the BN Media Group is more committed than ever in supporting, promoting and partnering with the Premier League around the world. This request simply seeks to hold account on behalf of all broadcasters, those parties that have sought and continue to seek to undermine the Premier League and its members clubs. Fascinating reading. shieldsgazette.com. Get yourself on there and have a look at it. Take it in, digest it. Samantha, your take on that? It's another. It just feels like it's another chink of light as far as this takeover is concerned to me. And well done to Liam for breaking the news again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing that we've said the whole time is, it's going to be a game of chess. I know that the letter was mentioned in April. We didn't really know what was within it. I think it shows a real arrogance from Qatar in terms of, the reasons that they're outlining that they don't want this deal to go through. I think we all know that that's not really true. But, I mean, how much relevance it'll have, I don't know. As you said, it's just another piece. It's another avenue that needs to be explored. I would maybe urge people to have a little bit of caution because it's a process. It's not going to change anything in the immediate days and weeks. It's part of a process. There's the whole geopolitical aspect. There's stuff going on between those regions to do with the World Cup, which are more pressing than a Newcastle takeover. So I think people need to kind of just step back and take a breath. But it's a fantastic story. I don't know how Liam got the information, but he did. He's done what journalists should do. He's made that available. And I think, we have to applaud him and his efforts on that. And just, hold on to that little grain of hope. There's been a lot happening on social media at the minute, and there are some people that are in favour of different communication channels and people sharing information, and that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion. But I think we all just need to remember that ultimately we want this club to be taken over, and we all want to stay as united as possible where we can. So, any news is ultimately good news at the minute. But again, urging caution that it's not going to change anything in the short term. This is still a long-term battle. It's a game of chess. And we need to understand that there's a lot of things that need to move in this process, and they're well above where we thought they would ever be when the news first broke. So I wouldn't expect anything to happen anytime soon, but we just need to stay positive and hope that it comes to fruition.
Yeah, well said, and especially on the everyone has that preference for what to watch, and I've got to be honest that. From a personal point of view, with the exception of the odd troll, you're always going to get it. I think social media has calmed down on the Newcastle timeline a little bit. Certainly with certain characters. And I do feel that 2021 should be a year where we can all try and get on a bit more. And somebody made a very valid point last night about Ashley dividing and conquering the fans for 13 years. And I do think that's what's happened, Samantha. I think that, people have almost been forced to take sides. I mean, we're always going to have different opinions on footballers. But, I think, unfortunately, Ashley's strength, has always been to divide the fans with different, different things that he's done. And I still think Murphy's we've been suffering a little bit of a hangover of that, certainly on social media. And I do feel that our campaign, although it's only a small campaign and it's amongst, the people who follow us, I do feel that think before you tweet got the message across. And I certainly have noticed with certain people, people are starting to take that message forward a little bit more. I know there's always going to be the odd one, but just my personal feeling,
Yeah, I think, Twitter's a place for opinions, and hopefully everyone can be respectful. I know I interact with accounts that other people don't, and it's just about different preferences and kind of being true to yourself. I think the point on Ashley is that, he's worn everybody down, but then I just have those moments, especially in the last year or two, where I just think, you know what, he will be gone at some point and we need to stay together. And, it's not about him anymore. It's about us staying together and thinking about our club. He's almost irrelevant. Yes, he owns the football club, and yes, he's been trying to sell on and off for a long time. But, I mean, we either focus our attention on getting him out of the club, or we just ignore what he's doing and try to stick together as a fan base, because he will be gone eventually. But I don't want there to be any kind of irreparable damage within the fan base. That's only looking at some of the stuff on Twitter, and that's a very small percentage of it, and it's easy. We're in a really difficult situation with this pandemic. People can't work. People have got kids at home. There's so much other stuff going on, and at the start we thought the takeover would happen and it would be that shining beacon of hope, and it's not. And it's just another thing where it's easy to kind of get sucked into it and not be able to remove yourself and think rationally about it. So for me, I mean, Mike Ashley's just an idiot, and I would rather we ignore him or we focus everything on it being his fault. Everything that swirls in the middle, I don't think is very, very helpful.
We need Ashley more than we've ever needed Mike Ashley, though. To be honest, I personally feel that we need him to. We need him to facilitate the sale of the club. We need him and Justin Barnes and whoever else is working for him on this particular sale to keep pressurising the Premier League and keep working towards the end goal, which is to sell the football club. So we can't protest anyway. We're all going to go into lockdown at 8 o'clock, and I've seen people speaking out against Steve Bruce. I thoroughly understand why people are sick and tired of Steve Bruce and his management of our football team at the minute. But people suggesting that they're going protest, etc. I think it's crazy. We'll come to that in a bit. I want to come to Kendall now anyway on that article. And look, I've just been pointed in the direction by somebody saying, did we see Luke Edwards' response? I've just read it. Luke Edwards as always, has an opinion, and he's a journalist and he's entitled to that, of course, writing for the Telegraph. His tweet was simple: I hate to be that guy again, but the letter sent to the Premier League clubs by BN was reported back in April, saying they'd urged clubs to block the Saudi takeover, and has been in the public domain since the April the 22nd. So while it may form part of the court case against Premier League, it wasn't a secret. Now, I think what he's missing the point is that the contents of the letter weren't in the public domain. The letter was known about, and Liam makes reference to that in his story, but we didn't know the content of it. And when you read the content of it, Kendall, or when you listen to it after I've read it there, it's fairly damning, and it's just another piece in this corrupt jigsaw.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, that's all we want. We just want, it brought to light the real reason as to why it was, not rejected, but, took on, sorry, little girls just in the background there.
Oh, it's all right.
That's all we want. We just want the real truth to come to light, and that's all anyone's ever been asking for the past few months. Credit where credit's due to Liam for breaking a story to, show that. It doesn't really matter if the letter was already known about the, as you say, the contents of it wasn't known. So fair play to Liam once again. Just to completely echo what Sam says, at the end of the day, I don't want this to be another conspiracy theory on Twitter. I don't want this to be another reason for fans to argue, for better use of the word, black's white over whether or not the takeover is or isn't going to happen. This isn't for that. This is just something that we should all be glad to see in a way, because it shows that we were right all along about the corruption and what was going on and things like that. The outside influence that we were told wasn't there. We know it now is. Whether or not it influenced the decision or what, I'm not entirely sure. But it just goes to show that there was other parties interested in whether or not this happened, which we all thought. And I just, totally echo on completely what Sam says. It's just, we all need to come together and, fight the main cause. And we're not doing that at the moment. We're sat arguing on Twitter whether or not the takeover is or isn't going to go through. Just leave that aside. I don't want this to be like a thing where people who think the takeover is going to happen, takes it on board and says, right, that's it. It's back on cans. Like, no, just don't do that. Don't do it for your own sanity, because it's not worth it. It really isn't worth it. Just take it on board. Take it as another chink of light in this whole dark year that we've had takeover-wise. And, as I say, all come together and fight the main cause that we need to overcome, which is the Premier League and Mike Ashley. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is here, it's very simple. There was a deal going on at Newcastle. There was leaks from the EPL. That's my understanding anyway. And that's why we're in the middle of this legal battle. There's been a reporter who was updated with this information. He's leaked that. And ultimately, that's why we find ourselves in the middle of a legal battle. And my belief is, once that legal battle is overcome and it's won by Newcastle United, the buyers will complete the deal. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's what'll happen. That's what'll happen. And today's story from Liam is just another. It's just another example of what has been going on. And I just think there is so much information that could come out, which could be very damaging to people at the EPL. It could be, could be certain people could lose their jobs over it. You just don't know. It's fascinating watching. It's disappointing that our takeover just didn't go through, just didn't get waved through. But it's now dawning on supporters why it didn't go through. I think, this corruption thing has been thrown around a lot, but, there's a lot more to it. And I think there's so many different angles and so many different reasons, but it's all suddenly coming round to that, it's coming round to that, end of play game, the end game, if you like. And I think that's what we'll see. Sav, from your perspective, just listening to what I read out there about, the BN letter, what did you make of that?
Yeah, do you know what? As I said earlier, I've had a really busy day, and that's the first I'd heard of it when I logged on here. So it's been a bit thrown on me. But no, I agree with what's been said. I try not to look too far into things and get too much hope, because, as Kendall said, it's not going to be an overnight. It's going to happen. This is a long process. But yeah, it is a bit of light amongst the darkness, and obviously with everything bubbling away in the background. I mean, I think this is what causes a lot of the Twitter fallout, is that you get the people that really look into it and sort of study it, and then you get the people that take it very black and white face value, and then those two parties tend to clash, and then you get a load of fallouts, which is a shame, because I think you can look at it how you want to, and we can all respect each other's opinions, and we can all get along, and there's no need for nastiness. But yeah, I mean, it can only be seen as a positive. Of which there has a few months ago there was a lot of negatives being thrown around. It's dead in the water and things like that. So yeah, I think it's really positive that, especially that Liam has broken that this evening. Yeah,
I mean, you were part of the Think Before You Tweet campaign. We were just talking briefly about Kendall's mentioned it, Samantha's mentioned it, just about the different reactions that you're going to get to this story. It's already happening, as I watch Twitter as we're doing the show. What's your take on the Twitter sphere, if you like? Has it calmed down a bit, do you think, over the last few weeks?
You know what? Everyone that's I've noticed being nasty, not even just to me, but like to other people. If I think it's unwarranted, they're blocked from me. And I've seen people around going, "Oh, well, she's blocked me," and I don't even know why. I've never spoken to her, but there are reasons behind that. But I do have a lot of them blocked. Maybe it's calmed down. I'm not sure, because I just don't see it. But I think, the campaign could only do good things, and I think it was something really good to highlight, because actually, like I said on there, people suffer with sort of mental health and things, especially being in lockdown and the current climate and everyone's stuck in. And you can sit there and someone could be really lonely and really low, and you could say something that could just push them over the edge. And it's not right. But you should really think about what you're saying and who to. You don't know what someone's going through on their day to day. So, it's just best to, if you've got a differing opinion, we can all have differing opinions, and we can have like a debate over it. But there's no need to get, and I've always said this, once you start getting personal and you start throwing name calling around, then you've lost your argument. If that's all you've got to argue about, then you've lost it. And I just think if you can't be constructive, I just haven't got time for those sort of people on Twitter. I'd just rather have my little circle of people that I know that I can, have an open sort of debate with.
Yeah, fair play. Okay, good stuff. Anyone knows the channel well enough, we will have Liam on tomorrow, Tuesday night, of course, 6 till 7, me and Liam Kennedy, and I'm sure Liam will get inundated with questions, as he always does, about his latest article. But just another piece in the jigsaw for me. We will see how things progress. We are back to doing t-shirts for the food bank. We've raised over £1,500 now for the food bank with our one-off t-shirts. I've stuck it on Twitter tonight. Those of you who tune in to watch Super Mac and Gibbo do their show will know that Malcolm does have internet problems. And there's always a running bet on what time his internet is going to go off. It's worse than mine, believe it or not. And we've put the t-shirt up tonight. It's this one. NUFC Matters, Who Let the Dogs Out t-shirt with Malcolm and the dog running out of the door, 6:42, 6:46, 6:48, which is usually the time that his internet goes off when the show's on. On the back, internet problems. So it's just for fun. It's a one-off t-shirt. It's pinned on the top of my Twitter. If you want to bid for it for the food bank, please do. All proceeds, and I mean all proceeds, go to the food bank, qtechshop.co.uk, who's one of our sponsors. They make the t-shirts and they get them sorted and get them out to you. Makers of pool tables and snooker tables, of course, in Wallsend as well. But please bid on the t-shirt. All proceeds go to the food bank, and the winner will be announced next Monday night on Ladies' Night. People asking how Katie is. She's fine. She is hoping to get on. She's just had a late call at work, so she may well get on, and Alicia should be back on next week. She's held up his work as well, but I will pass on your requests and your best wishes. Let's talk about football, Samantha. Newcastle then, since we had a Christmas sabbatical, we've had a few games. Let's just focus on the last couple of games though. Liverpool and Leicester. Liverpool wasn't a bad result. Yeah. Leicester. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, start with a positive then. The Liverpool game. We expected nothing but a hiding out of that game, and we came away with a point.
Yeah, I mean, the setup was right. The intent was right. I didn't really think we were going to score, but we defended well. Our defence, the back five were fantastic. We had balance in midfield. Everyone worked together. Darlow made some absolutely world-class saves. The stars were aligned for the performance against Liverpool. And I said in those 3 games that I thought we would get a point. I didn't think it would be against Liverpool. So I thought really great, determined performance where they had a plan. It was, I don't want to use his name, but it was the closest I've seen to a Rafa setup, where they put Yedlin in. They're not really expecting him to defend. He's that out ball. He's that right flank. He knows his role. And it was operated really well. So I came out of it absolutely baffled, delighted. And I was WhatsApping a couple of my Liverpool friends and I was like, I don't think we'll do anything here. And by the end of it, I was really proud of the performance. So for Liverpool, fantastic. Leicester, first half was a really turgid, dour affair. Nothing happening, but I thought we did well. We contained them. I didn't think Leicester were very at the races. But then in the second half, my issue is that they obviously, as any good manager would, reflected on the first half and thought, this is where we will find our opportunities. Actually, the way that we were set up, there was a lot of space between the midfield and the defenders. For some reason, Sean and Matty just didn't work. There wasn't enough mobility. The defenders, although they were trying to sit a little bit higher, they weren't mobile enough. So Leicester said straight away, let's get in that space. And they did. And although we rallied at the end, and I've had a lot of arguments on Twitter about this, we didn't deserve anything out of that game for a bit of rallying at the end. It's the same age-old problem in that we have to go down, you know, we have to concede to try and do something different. And that difference in terms of that plan B was, you know, Carl got his goal, fantastic, but I mean, it wasn't enough for me. So whenever he brought Shelby on, I mean, everyone and their granny knows that I don't like Shelby. And he said he's not really fit. He said he's struggling. I had absolutely no idea why he brought him on in the game. And I know he had a good cross in at the end. That second goal was because he doesn't tackle. There's always someone else has to do his work. So, you know, you could say bringing Andy on was a good substitution, but I just don't understand why he didn't bring Carl on, he didn't bring Gail on. I worry that we don't really have any sense of how to score goals and how to attack. And I know we're coming into Sheffield United game. I think he needs to give us more legs up front. I don't think Jolinton and Almiron are working. I think they slow our play far too much. You know, Jolinton, the work that he's doing is honestly a central midfielder's work. He isn't giving us any advantage whatsoever, so he needs to change it up. So good for Liverpool, probably not quite right for Leicester, didn't deserve anything. But I worry that Steve's now thinking, right, we're on to something, when the rest of us are thinking, well, you're not quite. You need to change it up a little bit more game by game. And, you know, Arsenal match aside, I don't know who or what he's going to play in that. I think he really needs to do something a little bit different for Sheffield United.
Yeah, okay. Sav, it's, you know, it's a hard Christmas at the best of times with the games coming thick and fast. But to get Man City, Liverpool and Leicester, you know, and then get Arsenal, you know, in the FA Cup in January, it's it's just a tough run, isn't it? And I mean, we've all had to play a ridiculous amount of games in a short space of time. The club's suffered COVID, like other clubs have as well. So there's been disruption behind the scenes. His talismanic player, ASM, has gone AWOL. You know, the club say it's COVID. There's people got question marks over that. You know, but talk about those two games that were played against Liverpool and Leicester.
Yeah, I mean, I was exactly the same as Sam. Liverpool, after that game, I partied like we'd won it, like we'd smashed them. I was so happy by that performance. We were closing the ball down. You know, we were pushing forward. We were playing higher up. It's everything that we've been saying that we wanted to see. But obviously, you know, we can't finish the ball. But I didn't even care about that because we played like we were trying, which at times you watch us and we look sluggish and we sit back and we just let them have all the possession. And it wasn't for that game. And no, I thought we were doing really well. But I just knew, just because it's Newcastle, that, you know, the next game wouldn't be the same. And I tweeted after the first 4 minutes, I was like, I'm feeling traumatised. It was scrappy. We were sitting back again more than what we was doing during the Liverpool game. And just to say, and I'm not saying because he's my favourite, but that in the Liverpool game, that off-the-line clearance by Shah was outstanding. No, we were scrappy. We were just letting them have possession. Although there was a possession that came up that said that we had 37%, and I didn't realise that we'd had that much because it didn't feel like it. And I was like, wow, that's amazing for us. You know, take anything, won't you? But yeah, I felt that it was a backward step from how we played during the Liverpool match, which is a bit concerning, obviously, with Arsenal coming up and the style that they play. I think he's going to have to change things around. And I just hope, because sometimes with Steve Bruce, he'll get a load of criticism and he'll go out there to prove a point. And I felt like with Liverpool, it was that match. He was out there to prove his point. He feels like he's proved it, and then he relaxes back off again, and then we go around the same cycle. And I just hope that we're not in that sort of cycle this time, because, you know, it's boring to watch. I felt like falling asleep during the Leicester game, to be fair. It was just, I didn't even care if we won in the end. I was just bored, and you don't want to feel like that when you watch them play. So, yeah, I don't know. I just, you know, good during the Liverpool one, but not so good during the Leicester one.
Okay, Kendall, your take on those two games, Liverpool and Leicester?
Yeah, like what I don't understand is like we can go and play like that against Liverpool, and arguably that's probably the best we've played all season, in my opinion, apart from the second half at Everton. I just feel like we just nullified their threat, which is amazing considering like the team that they are. Yes, people probably argued they weren't all there that day. You know, their chances didn't come off. Darlow made a few world-class saves, which is fair. That's completely fair enough. But then we played the exact. I think we sort of went the same against Leicester. Similar sort of setup. And as Sam says, it left a lot to be desired in the midfield. There was huge space for, you know, players like James Maddison, Tielemans to get into between the midfield and the defence, which obviously ended up causing us massive issues. I do, however, feel like Tielemans probably shouldn't have been on the pitch. On another day, he probably wouldn't have been. So, you know, there is that, but what can you do? That's just, you know, that's hindsight, Steve Bruce's favourite word. But yeah, I think Sheffield is going to be the test, because I can't believe I'm actually saying that. But, you know, it's just so typical Newcastle United to give them their first win of the season. Surely Steve's been watching and has said and has thought to himself, you know, their defence is horrendous, basically. If anyone saw that Eze goal, how he was allowed to run 3/4 of the pitch the way that he was against the defence is insane. It's just crazy. Whether or not we'll set up attacking, I'm not really sure. I really, really, really don't want to see Sean and Matty together in midfield ever again, unless we are at the bare bones, because none of them, I feel so bad, but none of them have an ounce of pace about them. Mark Albrighton, of all players, was outpacing them every single time. He was outpacing Matt Ritchie. Like, it was ridiculous. I think the only player on that field at that point who would have outpaced Mark Albrighton was Yedlin. And to be fair to Yedlin, you know, he's picked up the last couple of games. Whether or not that's him, you know, proving a point as to him staying or getting an extension to his contract, I'm not entirely sure. But to be fair to him, he's been one of the standout players for me. I would have liked to see Murphy more against Leicester, because I think when he came on, he offered us a little bit more than, you know, say Almiron, Joe Linton do. Because I just, what can I say? Joe Linton's first touch is like a shot. Like, his first touch is like, I just don't really know what it is or what's happening there, but it affects us a lot, because then, you know, we're sort of leaving the ball vulnerable, if you will. And as Sam says, he's a bit more, he's better at hold and play, if you will, than, you know, attack and play. So I just need to see something better against Sheffield. Come on, this is like the best chance we've got all season to do something to show our attack and prowess, if you think that we have any. Not that we probably do, but yeah, just go. All I want to say is just go for it. Look how happy we all were against Liverpool. Sav says we were all absolutely celebrating the draw like it was just crazy. Because we enjoyed the football, we enjoyed the game, we did well. So as long as we see that, I don't mind. I really don't mind. In terms of the FA Cup, Arsenal are back on form again now, just luckily before they play us. That's just sod's law, isn't it? And they're on form now, so we'll see what happens there. What he's going to play, I don't know. He loves his little to switch it up for the cups, so I honestly dread to think what's going to go on there. But yeah, we'll see in Steve Bruce's little world. We'll see.
Samantha, Andy Carroll, often talked about on the show, not about goal scoring, but he broke his duck and he's, you know, he did it in style. It was a good goal. I mean, first Premier League goal since he scored for West Ham in April 2018. Good strike. A few people on the chat asking, would you start him against Arsenal?
I don't think we have too many options. Yeah, great goal. He scored a great goal in pre-season as well. I mean, if the ball falls to him in the right place, he'll do well with it. His general play, though, it's just not enough. He's not mobile enough. So, yeah, he'll probably start against Arsenal. Again, it was mentioned in the chat, and I mentioned it in my previous comment. I don't understand what's happening with Dwight Gale. I don't know why he didn't come off the bench. Maybe he'll start against Arsenal, but I did mention on Twitter, I wondered, were we actually going to try and cash in on him? I don't understand why he's not being used. I assume he's not injured because even with Shelby, he said, his excuse, he's still feeling a wee bit of the after effects of the injury, the niggle, blah, blah, blah. Dwight Gale, I don't understand. So for Carl, yeah, he'll probably lead the line, but I don't expect much from him. I just think the game has changed so much. I think Arsenal will be so fast. Even, if they change their team up, it's probably going to have a lot of pace in it. I don't really know what job he's going to offer for us, but because we're so light in forward options, I think that's the reason why he'll start.
Okay, Andy Carroll scored. Sav, it was a good goal. I know you probably were watching Shaw. You probably got you remember when you used to be able to watch players on one camera and just follow them around the pitch? I've got this vision of you just doing that with Shaw, especially with his big reveal in the Liverpool game,
don't talk about it.
Which he almost did again against Leicester. He just seems to have this issue with his legs and wanting to get them out. But yeah, I mean, Andy Carroll. I've said it time and time again. He was a publicity signing, and a fully fit Andy Carroll would be a different story, and a couple of years younger would be a different story. But he's not. A lot of people criticising Joe Linton on social media yesterday. Shouldn't be in the team. People doing it on the chat tonight. Shouldn't be in the team. Wasted time. I was one of his biggest critics last season. I feel he's improved this season. And I've got to be honest, I would rather have Joe Linton in the starting lineup than Andy Carroll. But, Andy Carroll's he's an impact player, really, if nothing else. He can come on and, like he did yesterday, he can come on maybe 20 minutes from the end and get you that goal. If you're 1-0 down, he could get you an equaliser. But he hasn't even been able to do that until yesterday. So, would you play him against Arsenal? I don't know.
See, personally, I wouldn't start him because apart from that little spark of magic that got him his goal yesterday, and, he's good in the air, there's not really much else he brings. And I sort of do agree with the Joe Linton thing because although, his first touch is atrocious sometimes, and he is quite good at his hold-up play. He's quite strong, he's not massively injury prone. I don't know of Andy Carroll. I've seen him do some awful shots. There was one recently that went up to the moon that he was trying to aim at the goal, and I don't know. I just don't think the consistency is there enough. But like I said, I agree with you. As an impact sub, yeah, definitely. But I don't know about starting. I don't think he's fast enough, and especially against a side like Arsenal, I think are just going to run at us. And I've got a funny feeling that Steve Bruce will set up for us to all just defend that ball for damage limitation, just because that's what he does. He loves doing that in the cup. And so I think he probably will start Joe Linton, or maybe he'd start Andy Carroll just to surprise us all. I don't really know. I don't really understand where he gets with his starting lineups. But no, personally, I wouldn't. I would bring him on more towards the end. But then I'll probably favour bringing on Dwight Gale. And like Sam said, I don't know why he's not using Dwight Gale. Because he's not really given a reason for that, but who knows?
Yeah, obviously big announcements as we're on air. Boris Johnson obviously putting the country more or less into a complete lockdown now. Not much change for the northeast for those of us living here. Nothing's open anyway. I think it'll just be all about who you can mix with. But talk about the Premier League being suspended again as well from John at QTech, which wouldn't be a surprise at all. So we'll just have to keep an eye on the news and keep an eye on Sky Sports News for those updates. And look, health's got to come first, and it's clear that this virus isn't going away. In fact, it's getting worse. The NHS is essentially at breaking point now, and I think what I was surprised about more than anything else was we've opened all of these Nightingale hospitals up and down the country, and we don't have the staff to work in them. I found that absolutely, mind-blowing. I really did. So yeah, football does have to take second place, I'm afraid, with what is going on at the moment. Andy Carroll, Kendall, it's it's great to see him score. It was nice to see him from a personal point of view for him. It was just nice to see him score, and it was that, I think Liam Kennedy described it as that wand of a left foot.
Yeah, it was nice. I wish fans were there to see it. Obviously, at the end of the day, Carroll was a signing to get the fans on board with Steve Bruce, in my opinion. I think that was what it was all about. Steve was like, bringing all the band back together, as Harry Redknapp used to say. So, I think it was one of them. But it was nice to see him score. Don't get us wrong. Whether or not he'll be used now, but Steve Bruce is very, very transparent with his decisions. Joe Linton used to score one after like a run of horrendous 7 games, and then he used to be in the next game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was in against Arsenal. I really wouldn't. But yeah, nice to see him score. What can you really say? I would like to see Gale more personally. I feel like he offers us more. His positional awareness is a lot better. With Dwight Gale, you kind of guess that he's probably going to score. So I would like to see Dwight Gale more. What's happening with him, I really am not sure. Whether or not Andy Carroll's going out on loan to West Brom, because I know Sam Allardyce is a big fan of him. So whether or not that happens, I don't know. Then we'll be forced to see Gale a bit more. But Steve Bruce probably played Joe Linton up front, as he likes to do. So we're just going to have to see. I don't think any of us know what he's going to do. It's just a complete guessing game, pulling names out my hat at some points with him. But yeah, we'll soon see.
Yeah, it's a strange situation, isn't it, with Dwight Gale? I mean, you want to see him on the pitch. He's hit a rich vein of form as well. When the back end of last season, the start of this season, he was injured, of course, and then he comes back with a goal, and he gives you that bit of pace. He gives you an injection of pace, which you've got with Callum Wilson as well. But from my perspective, I can't understand that either. Last 20 minutes of the show, Samantha. Let's look ahead to 2 big games we've got coming up. First of all, we've got Arsenal and the FA Cup. With the league form dipping a little bit, and Newcastle, back to where they usually are, hovering above the relegation zone. Is the FA Cup important? I suppose it's a question we always ask at this time of year. Are Newcastle United going to be bothered about a cup run? They surrendered against Brentford, and the chances of getting to a semi-final. And is this going to be a priority?
Well, Steve Bruce will tell you it is. And then you'll see the team sheet and you'll try and work it out yourself. The one thing that I am really excited about for Arsenal is that we're probably going to have Dubravka back in net. And I don't mean that as a slight towards Dardo. I mean that I've missed him, and I think he's a super keeper. And I'm really excited about him getting a bit of game time and getting back to fitness. And just, seeing him back on the pitch again. The amount of injuries we have, this kind of COVID lingering over us, I'm honestly not sure who's going to be fit. I would be surprised if we can put a back 3 out for the Arsenal game, which I think we probably have to revert to back 4, or he's going to put people in positions they maybe naturally wouldn't be. So I think there's a lot to consider. Jamal Lewis is out injured. Don't know if he'll be back. Richie might be at wing back. I don't think Dummett's back. So there's still a lot of question marks over players. It's good to see Manquillo back on the bench again. So, I think he put out what he can. I'd be surprised if he can pull together a back 5 for that game. But I think for fitness for some players, it'll be good. And he will say he's having a go at it. But for me, even though I think we're on a comfortable amount of points, I would rather that we really focus our energy on getting 3 points against Sheffield United. I worry, and there's been a lot of joking about it on social media about Derby. And, you know, whenever the season that they got, what was it, 9 points, 11 points, 4 of them were against us. I remember watching that game. They beat us 1-0, and it was the first game I've ever turned off in a really bad temper and gone to bed, because it was just one of those games where you knew we weren't going to win. I worry that Sheffield United on 2 points, and the bookies, you know, they're either trying to wind us up or they are convinced that Sheffield United on 2 points can beat us, even though they've been dire this season. So I'd rather we focus our energy, as I said, and our kind of bigger impact players on Sheffield United. But I would hope we can give a good account of ourselves against Arsenal. I would hope that maybe Arteta will rest a couple of his better players and give us a fighting chance. But I can't see us doing anything. Maybe if we had 1 or 2 extra players available, we could have given it a go. Or maybe, as Kendall said, if they hadn't hit form, we probably thought at the time it was drawn, we might have had an opportunity. But so much has changed since then. I can't see anything positive, and that's okay. I'd rather get 3 points against Sheffield United.
And we'll have to wait for that game, Samantha.
Right. I was going to say is what I'm seeing, right?
Yeah, all sport is going to be shut down. Premier League is now postponed after tonight's game. So we are back to a full lockdown as we were. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dear me. As I said, you know, from our perspective, you know, it's disappointing as football fans, but, you know, needs must. And, you know, FA Cup will be off as well, as John Justice Allen says. Yeah, unfortunately, that means there will be no football at all. So back to the way we were, unfortunately, this time last year, more or less. It was March, wasn't it, when we started? But yeah, look, it's disappointing. It really is. It's the one thing, I suppose, that's kept a lot of people's morale up. And unfortunately, as North East Pro says, oh great, no football, back to focusing 100% on our takeover. Sav, it's disappointing, but it's not unexpected, is it, Sav? You know, especially with everything that's going on at the moment.
No, do you know what? I knew yesterday when he sat there and he was going, oh, you know, we're going to send your kids to school, you know, all that. And I thought this U-turn is coming up, because he always does that. He'll say one thing and then the second thing it's just another. So it's not surprising. I mean, the figures are just astounding at the moment, how many cases there are per day, and it sort of needed doing. And it doesn't surprise me for sport either. I think, you know, there's been a few clubs that have, well, including Newcastle, that have been a bit riddled with it. And I suppose it was inevitable. It's disappointing because obviously, you know, what else? We're going to have to argue over the takeover again because we've got nothing else to do. So, you know, inevitable, but it
may, you know, we'll have to wait and see. This, as always, with this government, there seems to be mixed messages, and I am trying to get at least some link to back us up on this. And TalkSport are running with the line that government says that elite sports, including the Premier League football, will continue despite new lockdown rules. So they are going with a completely different line. So potentially there could still be football. We'll wait and see.
You know, if they don't know, those players like St Max, who's AWOL, could be back for those games. So, you know, there is that. If he ever returns, if we ever find where he's gone, it could be.
Yeah. Interesting. We'll have to wait and see. Quick one for you there, I suppose, Sav. Would you have Shaw as captain?
Oh, all day long. He'd be captain even if he weren't on the pitch. I'd have him like a monument stood on the side of the pitch, just there. All day long I'd have him as captain. I mean, look at him, you know, just manly. From the back, charging forward. It's beautiful.
Don't hold back. Michael Hurst, Happy New Year to you, mate. Happy New Year to everybody watching. Chippers, thanks. He says, Steve Bruce gets some luck again. Yeah, he did, mate. You're not wrong there. He's had plenty of luck. That four-leaf clover must be wilting away by now. David Crone says, I'll have to put more shows on. Yeah, well, seven shows a week on here. Doesn't matter what happens. I don't think I can do any more, but we will always keep you going through the lockdown. And thanks for all your kind messages. There's too many to mention and put up on screen, but thanks for all your kind messages. I'm glad you enjoy the content. So, Kendall, if there is a game of football in the FA Cup, is it important? I mean, do Newcastle United want to progress in the Cup, or is that Sheffield United game, which is on the horizon, far more important? I called it a 6-pointer. As always on Twitter, somebody will have a reply and said that it's not a 6-pointer. But for me, it is a 6-pointer because look, Sheffield United haven't won a game all season. This is the kind of game that Newcastle United go into and usually get beat in. Do you know what I mean? I posted a thing up yesterday of a game I was at in '89, in the late 80s, when we had to beat Sheffield Wednesday at home. Mirandina was playing, and I remember the game clearly because Sheffield Wednesday had those green and white strips on, and I just remember I was nervous. It was the first time I remember going to a game and actually being nervous. And we lost 3-1 at home, and I felt I was absolutely gutted. And that's Sheffield United game. It'll feel like that to them. It'll feel like that to us as well. It's a must-win game, but you can see Sheffield United getting that 3 points and breaking the duck in that game. Is that more important in the FA Cup?
Yeah, I think currently right now, considering where we're at in the league, I know obviously we're quite a few points away from the relegation zone, if you will, but I think the way that we're playing at the moment and, the difficulty that we're going to have in the next coming months, and I do think the league is probably more important, but there isn't any harm in going at a cup, do you know what I mean? Like, look, we got to quarterfinals again. For this one, there is no harm in going for a cup. If he wants to, win the fans back on side, then that the cup's always a good plan, but we just can't afford injuries with our lack of secondary players in the positions. Look, we've struggled already with the injuries that we've got. We haven't had like loads and loads and loads. We've just had sort of consistent injuries, like players. Fraser's been injured a couple of times already, and things like that. So I don't think we can probably afford to play a full strength squad. I really don't, especially if COVID is still an ongoing thing. And we all know we really, really, really don't want to be relegated again. I'd rather just be kicked out the FA Cup straight away than get relegated again. So for me, it's got to be focused on the league. But there is no harm in going for the cup if that's playing the youngsters. I don't mind, give them a chance. It might be a bit better than a couple of others that we've got. Who knows? But yeah, definitely 100% focusing on the league for me. I don't think that's an excuse, because I think that's sometimes an excuse, especially for managers. They'll get kicked out of the cup and they're like, oh, we're focusing on the league anyway. But I don't want it to be an excuse. But yeah, I think the league's definitely important to us this year.
Yeah, good news. The football and the Premier League is definitely going ahead. Although I did have to laugh at He says elite football to continue. Does that mean our games are postponed? Ian Hutchinson is concentrating on more important matters. No more click and collect beer.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that's continuing.
Philip Shuttleworth says, can you get the girls to do their favourite all-time team? Yes, it will happen. I just didn't want to... I only had a certain amount to do, and it's about tying people down, getting them to be able to commit to doing an hour. So it will happen, Philip, yeah. And there's a few of the lads have still got to do theirs as well, Steve Hasty, etc. So don't worry, the girls will be doing it at some point, and we will be getting them up in due course. Barry Hogan says, play Joe Clinton, Shelby Lascelles, Sean Longstaff and Carroll in the cup, and don't play them any other time. In lockdown again in Liverpool, losing 1-0. Thanks, Bill. Chipper says, Sav, enough, Shaw be fit for Saturday. Inside information on Shaw, I love it. But yeah, look, I think looking at the FA Cup game, Dubravka is a guarantee. I think he will definitely start, like Sam said, and I don't think anybody will begrudge him that. I think Darlow does need a rest. We good for him to have a little bit of time out and give Dubravka a run out. That would be good. So Samantha, just coming back to you, I want to ask, just finish off really on the midfield scenario, because I don't think anybody thinks that the two Longstaffs can play together. But we did see against Liverpool, Hayden and Matty Longstaff play well together. Hayden had a suspension. He'll be back. Would you like to see us go with that full time now and give those two a chance to play alongside each other?
Yeah, I think if we're discussing a compatible midfield too, it's Hayden and Longstaff, Matty all day long. I think for me, the problem is, as good as they are in terms of mobility in the centre from a defensive point of view, they're not getting us any further really in terms of those attacking positions. So I think, we can almost settle on that 5 and we can settle on those 2. And that'll give us the mobility and we'll have a bit more energy and we'll have a bit more structure. It's then that other half of the pitch that I have a real problem with. The Joelinton Almiron isn't working. The Jacob Murphy gives a little bit more. I honestly would like to see a 3 in midfield and 2 strikers at this point, because I don't think any of our wide options are working. And I know that someone said Talk Sport, we're talking about us missing Alan St. Maximum. And I mean, if we put our rose-tinted glasses on and we think about when he was playing well, yes, we do miss him. But that's not been the way that, he's not been like that recently. So I think that's a really short-sighted view to think that we're missing him, because the way that we were playing him, he wasn't bringing anything really to the game. He was frustrated. He was injured. We have a lot of players that like to be knocked down and roll about a bit and then kind of get up. We've got Almiron, we've got St. Maximum. I don't want to say it, Bashar, again, always seems to have wee niggles. Joelinton, once again, holds his head for his back. And I'm kind of wanting to get out there and shake them and kind of understand what's going on. So if we go with a 2, yes. But I don't think it's the answer to getting us into a more attacking mindset, the way that Bruce sets up. And I honestly think potentially Sean should be in behind a striker, or we should have Gale up front with Wilson, because when Wilson makes those runs out wide, nobody has any interest in getting up to support him or getting into the box. And Wilson had an off day against Leicester, and he's absolutely entitled to one, because he runs his socks off for getting so little back from the rest of the team. So, yeah, if we're going with the 2, absolutely them. But I think he just needs to think about another dynamic in that area that's going to get us a little bit more in the final third.
Yeah, just a quick one on that. I'm sure you saw the Karen Carney situation develop, and I did read out Les Ferdinand's comments, which I thought were great. Saying that anonymous accounts shouldn't be allowed as well. Do you know what I mean, on social media? What did you think of that, Samantha? Just briefly.
Yeah, I mean, she's entitled to her opinion. Again, a clip. It doesn't, I don't think the Leeds account helped in what they put out on social media. There's a lot of people that are keyboard warriors and hide behind, anonymity on social media. So it didn't help. She can give her opinion. There were a lot of people that thankfully come out and actually explained what her opinion was. The fact she's had to go off social media is disgusting. And again, it comes down to that point that we have been making for a long time. Me personally, and on this show, and the think before you tweet and be respectful. Twitter needs to be moderated. You need to be putting your identity to an account, because you need to be held accountable. And again, I feel like unless Twitter do something, we're going to be having the same conversation every single month, because it's so easy for things like this to happen. And I'm happy she took herself off Twitter, because it's the best thing to do, rather than get absorbed in the absolute cesspit and pile on that happened just because she gave an opinion that people didn't agree with.
Yeah, fair play. Well said, Sav. Just a quick one on the Hayden Longstaff. Would you like to see that continue?
Yeah, I think that was our best option. And obviously how they played during the Liverpool match seemed to work better. But I do agree with Samantha. I think, during the transfer window, it'd be nice to see us get like a proper attacking midfielder in. Whether or not we do, it's highly unlikely probably. But, that would be nice. But given the current squad, I think that works. I think Sean and Matty didn't work, obviously, when we played Leicester, because, they just couldn't get the ball forward enough. And yeah, I think looking at our current squad and how they play, but then again, it is us. Sometimes you see a pair and you think, oh yeah, they go great together, and then the next match you think, God, they're awful. Why did I even think that? So I think, mate, we've got to have a setup that we're going to play all the time and are going to play well and gel well together and be able to get the ball forward, because that seems to be our biggest problem. I was noticing during the Leicester game, we were just lopping the ball forward again, and that really doesn't work for us because it just leaves Wilson in that isolated position. And as Sam said about putting Wilson and Gale together, because Gale knows the positions to get in, over Joelinton, who, will stay back and sort of avoid trying to score as much as he can for some reason. I think it might be a confidence issue. But yeah, I would definitely pair, Wilson and Gale together, and then hopefully, if we can get the ball forward from midfield, then they can get in the right places.
Yeah, okay. And just a quick one on current situation. I mean, she took herself off social media. Like Samantha says, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I think, though, to take yourself off social media, you've got to let social media get you to a pretty low place. I know that I took myself off once and I was feeling really awful just because I didn't want to look at it. So on those horrible things, you do want to look at it, but you don't. And people shouldn't be able to run riot to the point that they make someone feel that, their opinion is not valid or worth being listened to, and that they bully them to a point that they feel that they can't even come on Twitter. And it does come back to, like we said, the anonymous accounts. It's so easy to sit behind a fake profile picture and bully people, and you can report it as much as you like. They'll get banned, and then they'll just come back as someone else, and it's just a repetitive thing. I think the identity is one thing. I was seeing someone say the other day that they didn't want to put their real name behind their account and things like that. IP addresses is another way around it, banning the IP address. But until Twitter sort of tackle this, it's sadly just going to carry on, as Sam said, month after month. It's not going to be something that's going to stop overnight. Just, think before you tweet was great because it raises awareness. And I think, it has changed. But unfortunately, you get these people that don't care about things like that, and they'll use that to make themselves even angrier and go on, more of a bandwagon to make people's lives miserable. But why, I'm not sure. But it's a shame. Until Twitter properly police it, I don't think it's going to change, permanently, or it's going to write how everyone behaves on that platform, because there's so many ways around, being able to troll people.
Last word to you, Kendall, on the midfield scenario. Matty Longstaff and Hayden, good for you?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Sam though. I do think we probably need three in midfield, and it's strange because I feel like we almost need a DM, a CM, and an AM, like in that sort of area, because we have such a gap between the defence and the midfield already. So obviously Hayden can act as the defensive midfielder, and we need someone who can create the ball going forward. But then if we only have two and we have an AM and a DM, it kind of leaves another gap. So then we have a lot of space for teams to infiltrate and run through the channels, which is what happens. So I think a three in midfield would actually definitely probably help. Steve Bruce won't do that. We all know he never does the thing that we want or that he should do. So that's that. But yeah, that'll be a better dynamic, I feel like. But in terms of if we're going to stick with the two, yeah, I think it's got to be Hayden and Matty for me. Shelby's way too inconsistent, and we have no one apart from Wilson at the other end of the field who, if he lumps the long ball up, can get it, which is obviously not great. So he's obviously out for me, and he's injured a lot at the moment. So he always has had sort of carried a bit of an injury. So there's that. Hendrick, if he wants to play, midfield, I'm not his giganticest fan, that's not a word, but I'm not his biggest fan. He's better at holding up the ball, but No, Sean for me, no. He's had one good game, and then unfortunately he's just been poor since. And I do feel for him because I think obviously a lot of us want him to do well, you know, a local lad and that. But if he's just not good enough, he's just not good enough, unfortunately. And it is a shame, but I do prefer Matty over Sean if, you know, you want to go down the route of choosing a brother. And just with regards to the Karen Carney situation, yes, you're allowed to criticise an opinion, that's not a problem. But when the comments start getting misogynistic and sexist, that's where the issues lay, because that's when the pylon started, that's when the trolling started, and it was all linked to being a woman and what women should do and what women should comment on. And that's where my issue lay, because yes, you can criticise opinion, we all do it. We all sit there and criticise Steve Bruce's post-match conferences and things like that. We all do it, and that's totally fine. But it doesn't need to get personal, doesn't need to get insulting, doesn't need to get sexist, and that's where it should end. I completely agree that Twitter don't do enough to suspend accounts or ban people from the platform, and when they have consistently engaged in targeted harassment specifically. Racism isn't taken seriously enough on the app. I know one of the guys who I know doing shows, Flex, who does Man United shows, he has repeatedly been called racist words by one particular account, and it's still not suspended. This has been going on for months now. They just don't do enough, and they need to introduce a form of government issued ID that's verified. Yes, you don't have to use your real name on the platform, that's completely fine, because that can, you know, if you're a domestic abuse survivor or whatever, that can lead into obvious issues. However, I think your profile should offer you a thing where you're verified. If you're verified with your government issued ID, you can use any picture and username you want, that's fine, but you are only allowed one account with your name, and I think that's what should probably happen. Whether or not they do that, it is getting a bit more, it is bankrolling on social media campaigns and things like that to get this started. So hopefully they do it this year. I really, really hope they do. It would stop a lot. Mental health is so vital and important at this current time, especially with lockdown and coronavirus. So I think they really, really need to do something to tackle that, and hopefully this year sees a change.
We need high-profile people like Les Ferdinand to come out and speak out like he did the other day about anonymous accounts, and only then will we see change. A campaign like ours, although it was, it raised the profile, it's not going to change the world. We need bigger names to get behind it, and hopefully they will as things go on. That hour has flown over as always. In fact, we've gone into extra time. If you enjoyed the channel, click on the little thing down on the right-hand side there. It's got the Newcastle Legends logo on. Please subscribe to the channel by clicking that. If you've got time, please share it to your Twitter and your Facebook by clicking share, comment and like it as well. It does help us massively. We do all of these shows for free. We do them seven nights a week, so please give us some support in whichever way you can. Spread the word, let people know about NUFC matters. And I'm back tomorrow night 6 o'clock with Liam Kennedy from the Shields Gazette, and we'll be talking about that article, and we'll also be talking about the January transfer window. And good evening to Kendall's beautiful daughter. Hi.
She's trying to get on all night. I'm like, no, ignore her hair because she's been putting her coat on her head saying that she's Batman.
Well, aren't you a little beauty? We'll have to get you on the show more often.
She was like, yeah.
The viewing figures will go through the roof. Was Santa Claus good? Yeah, I bet he was. I bet he was. Fantastic. Oh, well, that's great stuff. A lovely end to a lovely show. Great to have you on, girls. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a wonderful week, whatever you're doing, and take care and stay safe.
Bye.
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 Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again.